This is Global Forum TV. In our new series today, India 2025, we bring you eminent personalities from India and share their vision, comments and opinions about what India would look like in 2025. This is your host, Ameena Saeed.
The mantra to understand India is Gandhi. Once you understand Gandhi, then you know the way out is there.
If you are going to promote chauvinism of the majority, or what I call chauvinism of the majority, either through the BJP, the opposition Bharatiya Janata Party, or otherwise through one of its ancillaries of what is called the Sangh Parivar, you're going to atomize the Indian political scene.
Rift is going to be with China.
Okay.
India will become, as far as some of the core issues of the world are concerned, the global laboratory. Income inequalities have never been more explosive than they are today. I mean, you know, this is it's always been an unequal and hierarchical society.
India is a very stabilizing force. Indian history, Indian culture, and Indian population, Indian immigrants abroad, all this shows that India is an extraordinarily stabilizing force with the capacity for integration.
The whole world is looking at India as the future of this entire globe.
A great country, a proud country, but a country which under capitalism is unfortunately very much unequal. A country in which a part is the urban India and the rest is rural Bharat.
Hi, this is Global Forum TV. Global Forum TV, a platform for global issues with global perspectives in today's global village. We continue in our series to India 2025, where we bring you eminent personalities from India to share their vision, their opinion, their comments about India in 2025. Today we have with us one such person. His name is Ashis Nandi. Mr. Nandi, thank you very much for being with us. Mr. Nandi, a little bit about Mr. Nandi. He is first and foremost described as a dissent, which means he has trained himself to think outside the box, which has introduced a certain originality to his approach. He is an author, theoretician, and a philosopher in the Gandhian tradition. Professionally, he is known as a political psychologist and sociologist of science who works at the Center for the Cultures of Knowledge, Vision, and Dialogue of Civilization. The Indian Express described him as perhaps the most notable dissenting voice of our time and continues about him. He believes that the idea of nation state has led to more bloodbath and genocide in the 20th century than both the world wars put together. For him, India and Pakistan are a prime example of how costly the Western idea of nation state has been for the human race. He received the Fukuoka Asian Culture Award in 2007. He has written or edited more than a dozen books, which include such celebrated titles as The Intimate Enemy, Loss and Recovery of Self Under Colonialism, Science, Hegemony and Violence, A Requiem for Modernity, Tradition, Tyranny and Utopias, Essays in Political Awareness, Ram Janambhoomi Movement and Fear of the Self. Welcome, Mr. Nandi, to Global Forum. It is good to have you here. Thank you. What is a political psychologist?
I think those who study the psychological sources of political actions or choices, and those who study perhaps also the way politics of psychology itself influences our understanding of the psychology of politics.
Okay. Yeah.
Too complicated.
All right. Okay. Okay. The second question I have is about your book, Ram Janambhoomi Movement, Fear of the Self. I'm intrigued. How can the majority have a fear of itself?
Fear of the self is not confined to minorities. Okay. There are many majorities in the world which perpetually feel insecure. I am presently writing the foreword to an Australian book on Australian problems, and I am astonished by the extent to which Australia seems insecure about its self-definition. White Australia.
White Australia.
In fact, they seem more insecure about themselves than the Australian Aborigines are,
Wow.
or the immigrants are.
Amazing.
And I mean, there is no guarantee that majority will give you confidence. I think the RSS is born, for instance, out of a minority complex. It thrives on the sense of being a minority in a section of urban, modernized Hindus.
How do you see India today in the global sense?
I think India has made it by the standards of the globalized world. What you see are the deficiencies will be taken care of within a very short period of time. So I have no objections to that. I cannot fault India on that. But I have my doubts how far a civilization, as opposed to a nation state, can go by other people's ideas of what is good and bad, and what is a good society and what is a bad society. That must evolve from within the society, and that cannot be defined by any section of Indians. That can be only defined democratically through the participation of all kinds of Indians, whether in the majority or minority, whether they speak our national language or do not, whether they belong to the literate class and caste, or they do not.
What is India's globalization strategy for 2025? And where do you see India in 2025?
I do not know about the globalization strategy of India. I am not the right person to answer that question. All I can say is this, that India's globalization strategy is not particularly different from the globalization strategy of many other globalizing societies, including those in East and Southeast Asia.
Where will India be in 2025 in relation to global powers and regional powers?
I think it will become a powerful country. It will become a country not only having economic might, but also nuclear might. And I'm afraid it will be some kind of a mimicry of some of the global powers who are not at the top rung of the ladder. Something like some of the European states, or maybe even China up to a point.
If we were to assume that by 2025, India, China, Russia, Japan, European Union and USA will be the centers of power, what kind of rifts and alliances do you see between these countries?
I do not see much of a rift. If once India globalizes, there is not much of a rift between China and them either. There is competition, rivalry, but that's not a rift, really speaking. There is not much of an rift as far as economic ideology goes between China and India anymore. There is a rift about political ideology. China is not a democracy. In many respects, it is a police state, and the apologists of China forget that in India, and to that extent India is better off. But China probably will be more successful as an economic power, because I do believe that development has a built-in code of authoritarianism within it. All countries which have developed spectacularly have shown authoritarian streaks, whether it was the East Asian giants or the Southeast Asian ones, whether it was Europe, which had a colonial past. If you don't have an authoritarian, open authoritarian past, you have to have a colonial past.
Okay.